is up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Dense Pixels Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brad, joined by my co-hosts, Micah.
Hey.
And Carrie.
What's up?
I'll start with you, Carrie, because you're playing an actual new game
Sure.
this week and not a return to an old game. You're playing Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, the Zelda Breath of the Wild prequel, and I'm using air quotes for those of you not watching.
It's non-canon, really, much like how the first Hyrule Warriors was non-canon.
So hang on. So you mean to tell me that they literally advertised this as a Breath of the Wild prequel, and you're telling me that it's non-canon?
It does not feel canon.
That's wild to me.
It's delightful though. It's a super fun time. I mean, here's the thing. It's a Musou game, right? It plays like all the other Musou games when it comes right down to it. You're barreling through just hundreds and hundreds of enemy units. You got to secure keeps. You got to make sure no one dies. But it's fun. I'm not super far into it. I haven't been like binging it like some of my friends have been binging it, just because Musou games aren't my favorite. So for me, it's like I will play a stage, maybe 2 stages, and be like, I'm done for now. Whereas like a lot of my friends have been playing for like 4 or 5 hours at a time. I'm playing in like these sort of little 20-minute, half-hour spurts instead. So I'm still really early in the story. But yeah, it's super fun. Being able to play as the champions is a ton of fun. Finally being able to punch Rivali in the mouth is the best feeling on earth. That bird is the worst, and he absolutely deserves getting his shit kicked in. And I was happy to be able to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's another Musou game set in the universe of Breath of the Wild. There's some dumb time travel stuff happening plot-wise, but yeah, I mean, it's good. If you like Zelda and you can tolerate the Musou style gameplay, then yeah, go for it.
So let me ask you a question. This is a Zelda-based question.
Okay.
I thought I read somewhere that all of these Zeldas are a part of, like, is it like the Zelda multiverse, or are all of these in a timeline?
The timeline is weird because it branches at Ocarina of Time. No one's really quite sure where Breath of the Wild fits within the greater Zelda universe timeline, because the game came out after the timeline was released ultimately, and Nintendo hasn't like formally addressed it. But I think the general assumption is, regardless of what branch Breath of the Wild is on, it is so fucking far in the future after the events of all of the other games that it's not even worth worrying about.
But the other games take place on a single timeline before...
They take place...
A split single timeline, yeah.
A split single timeline, yeah. The Zelda timeline has 3 main branches that are created at the events of Ocarina of Time.
Okay, but what about prior to that?
Prior to that, you're really going to make me look up the Zelda timeline.
I'm just curious, man.
It's a thing that exists. When they put out that Hyrule Compendium, and for the first time they acknowledged it. So.
And I didn't understand it because I don't know quantum Zelda.
The initial single timeline begins with Skyward Sword, which is the first reincarnation of the goddess Hylia in Zelda, and the Skyloft continent returns to Hyrule, and then you have sort of the establishment of the Sacred Realm and the establishment of the initial Kingdom of Hyrule. And then you have the Minish Cap and Four Swords, in which the sort of continually reincarnating evil spirit that I believe is Demise in Skyward Sword. Is that his name? Because Skyward Sword established, like, why do Link and Zelda keep reincarnating like this? And it's
Okay,
because
that's why-
Demise cursed the three of their spirits to continually reincarnate.
Okay.
Where Demise initially reincarnates as Vati and then later begins reincarnating as Ganon.
So let me ask you this.
Mhm.
This is an opinion piece. What's messier? The Zelda timeline-ish thing, or all of Kingdom Hearts?
All of Kingdom
All
Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts was not even a question. At least Zelda has 3 very distinct branches based on the events of one game.
Sure. Yeah.
And it doesn't extrapolate from there. It's like based on what happens in this one game, one of these 3 paths will occur.
Right.
Kingdom Hearts is
a mess.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts has some of the worst writing I've ever experienced in a video game.
Now, okay. Since we're just playing around with hypotheticals, right? This is the
Sure.
type of conversation that people come for.
Look, it's a loose week this week. There's a shitload of dumb news, and there's a lot of questions but that's how we're rolling. It's Thanksgiving.
So you said that Kingdom Hearts has some of the worst writing that you see in a video game. What is worse in their respective mediums? Kingdom Hearts' writing or Ernest Cline?
Ernest Cline. Here's the thing,
I
right?
knew the answer to that.
Here's
I
the
just
thing.
wanted to hear you say it.
So here's the thing is that Kingdom Hearts, for all of its messy bullshit, desperately trying to stretch bad plot points into making sense and just throwing more characters at the story until it kind of makes sense, at least has, like, within the individual games, has like sort of these moments of brilliance, right? And the characters themselves can be really compelling. Like, I like Sora as a character. I like Riku as a character. I like some of the Organization 13 members as characters. Much as the overarching plot is fucking dumb and terrible and very badly written, because no one on the creative team knew after really the first game that they were going to be making however many fucking sequels they ended up making, which resulted in all of this like awkward ham-fisting of content into other content and retconning and all this other bullshit. You know, Kingdom Hearts has moments where it's like really entertaining, and like I get why people like Kingdom Hearts, much as objectively the writing is terrible. Ernest Cline should not be allowed to publish books. Ernest Cline's writing is just lists of references. Like, it'd be one thing if it was like, okay, we have to figure out this clue that's like an 80s pop culture reference. And then the character has to like go on some sort of journey through pop culture history in order to like discover the meaning behind this clue. But the problem is that the character is like the reference master, and so he just knows everything automatically, which is why all of his books are like 3.5 pages of plot that are somehow extended into 372 pages of absolute garbage.
I like to think, because I read that first book and I was
it's
like,
not
well,
good.
This is not for me. And I liken it to like if it's like a novelization of Family Guy cutaways. Like like if you can imagine 300 pages of Family Guy cutaways, like that is just centered around the late 70s to mid 80s, then that is that book.
It's just like I've been physically hurting myself by reading excerpts from Ready Player 2,
I read a little bit
today.
and I was just like, I can't do it. I read a little bit of that ongoing thread and I was like, I can't do this.
The opening pages are beyond parody. Like, I'm going to read this because I feel like people need this read to them because it's ridiculous. This is in the first pages of the book. I thanked the guard and told him he could go as I scanned the doors. There it was. Number 42, another of Halliday's jokes. According to one of his favorite novels, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the number 42 was the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything. I just stood there for a few seconds, reminding myself to breathe. Then I punched in the 7-digit combination from the egg's inscription into the code pad beside the vault door. 8675309, a combination no self-respecting Gunter would have trouble remembering. Jenny, I've got your number. I need to make you mine. I hate it! It's so stupid!
This is like that time I had to figure out a passcode, and I used it based off of that song. Oh man! All right, I know. I don't know if you're gonna be here on Thursday. So
I literally gave myself a fucking Charlie horse earlier because my physical reaction, like the physical cringe I experienced while reading some of these excerpts was so powerful. I gave myself a fucking leg cramp.
I guarantee, like I said, we're not trailblazers in many departments, but I guarantee that there's no podcast walking on this earth or any other that transitioned a impressions review of Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity into a critique on the initial excerpts release of Ready Player 2.
It's so bad. Here's the thing. It's one thing to enjoy garbage, right? I enjoy garbage once in a while, but can we at least acknowledge that it's garbage?
Yeah.
Don't fucking sit here and tell me Ernest Cline is a good writer. He is not. He's
all those
not.
Books right here, all those books you see right there, all 75% of them are crap.
Yeah.
It's space junk, military garbage, but I love it. And
that's fine. It's fine to enjoy garbage once in a while. It's like junk food, right? It like hits that button in your brain that makes you feel good. And
speaking
for some people,
garbage, Brad.
No Man's Sky.
How dare you? What a fine game this has become.
I keep meaning to go back and
it's interesting. So I haven't really spent a considerable amount of time with No Man's Sky since the initial release, and obviously the initial release was a flawed game, to put it kindly. They've added a lot in the game since then. They've simplified a lot of the systems.
Oh, thank God.
They've added a lot of new features, most notably base building and land vehicles as well, separate and apart from your ship that you have to pilot the galaxies with. I don't have a land vehicle yet. I can't wait to get one. I'd imagine it's kind of akin to when you unlock like a horse in an RPG, in an open world game, that you can actually get around a little bit quicker, because running everywhere is not the most fun thing all the time. The base building is really interesting. I've spent way more time constructing bases in my short reemergence back into No Man's Sky than I thought I would. It's the cool thing about this game is not only the construction of the base and kind of making it yours, but also finding just the right planet to put it on and just the right spot in that planet to put it as well. I terraformed the side of a mountain to carve out space on a paradise style planet for my initial base. You can have multiple bases as well, but this is the one that I'm probably going to keep. It overlooks a nice lake. I posted a nice picture of it on the the view from my base in the Dense Pixels fan group, densepixels.com/fans. And again, I had to carve out the side of a mountain to get my base exactly where I wanted it to be. No Man's Sky is a great chill game. Like I said, the hook is still the same. You're still running around. It's a resource gathering game of sorts. Trading those resources in. There's actually like a storyline now in the game that they added a couple of years ago. It's not great video game storytelling by any stretch of the imagination, but
I played through some of it and I was like,
it's something to guide your path. They also the one thing that's completely new to me, they also have a nexus in the game, which is an actual like social hub, like a legitimate one that other players also congregate in. It's kind of like the Tower in Destiny of sorts. They have lots of different vendors and things of that nature as well. And that's cool, because one of the big problems that the game had when I first played it is that it was completely isolated. Like, you could run into other players, but the odds of such a thing happening were wildly minuscule.
Slim to none.
Right, just because of the amount of planets and biomes that there are in the game. And now because you have that Nexus hub, because you have cooperative multiplayer, because you have cross-platform play, it's a lot easier to get together with your friends. So maybe I'll coax Terrence into getting back on to No Man's Sky, and we'll jaunt across.
Is there cross-platform play on that?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
There's cross-play, the whole shebang. It's on everything now. So it's a great game. It looks beautiful. Not only running at 4K 60 frames per second on PS5, but also they one of the things they've done over the years is add a lot more variety to the different planet types and how they look, and
as opposed to everything either being like rocks, or an awful toxic planet full of angry crabs.
Let me tell you something. The first couple planets I came across were the first couple had like acid rainstorms all the time. Then one was like heavily irradiated, and I had to set up my first base on the irradiated planet. So I literally created like a shack that had a base computer outside of it, and that was about all that was. And the minute I found a good planet to put a base on. Like I literally like went to space station, like, oh, like you have to go back to your base or make a new one. I'm like, I'm going back to this planet that I flew past. It's a nice planet. I'm going to find a nice place with a view, and I'm going to fucking put my base right down in there. And the fact that you can do that is very cool. And No Man's Sky looks awesome. And I can't wait to spend more time with it. Valhalla is still plugging along. I imagine I'm halfway through the game. The story started to get very intriguing. It took way too long to get to a very intriguing part of the story. Micah, as a fan of Mass Effect 2, you will love this game when you get around to it, because it has serious Mass Effect 2 vibes in that, hey, there's a pretty serious thing happening, but I have to do all these other much less serious things while this very serious thing is happening in the background.
I bought it today.
Yeah.
So
I am really enjoying it. It's a good game. The thing that I appreciate about this, and I have to only compare it against Odyssey because that's the only one of the new Assassin's Creed that I played besides Valhalla, is it feels very different. And I think I mentioned this a little bit last week, so I won't belabor the point, but combat feels much more like brutal in this game. It's much less finesse based than, like, you can just go beat the shit out of someone with a hammer essentially in this game. Like the way you break guards' shields is with a heavy attack. So like once you get one on the ground, I'm just fucking wailing away at this dude basically. They have a hook shot as well, or a spear. Like not like when I say spear, I'd lead like a spear, like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat has a spear that you can throw at somebody and then whale them into a wall or other dudes or stuff like that. There's some fun techniques in this one. And if you pay, I think it's $5, you can get a wolf as a mount, like a giant wolf instead of a horse.
Like Fenrir?
Yeah. Instead of a horse. So there's that. If you want to spend more money, I have not spent any money.
Yeah, I don't want to spend
the initial
that kind of money.
Yeah,
that kind of money. I don't want to spend another $5 just yet. I just
That's so out of character for you, Micah.
Well, give it time. If I really take to the game, then yeah, I'll throw some money at it.
Well,
I'm debating on whether or not I want to dish out the $30 for The Last of Us Part 2. Because I feel like if I'm gonna get it, now's the time to get it. But I don't want to get it.
I feel like you've already played the best 2 single-player games that are being published by Sony this year.
And that's the thing that's stopping me, right? Because like I've been spoiled on the story. It's my own fault. So then it would be just about gameplay. And as much as everyone loves The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2, the thing that they don't talk about loving is the minute-to-minute gameplay. They talk about how they like the story and they talk about how, they like the characters, but they don't talk about that stealth stuff.
Imagine Uncharted, but you don't want to fight people. Then you want to avoid combat as much as possible. in a prolonged effort to get to the next cutscene. That is The Last of Us.
Right.
People find this enjoyable?
No,
I guess
they
so.
find
It just won like Game of the Year at Golden Joystick Awards. So
they find that pretty package enjoyable. Nobody tells about that the actual gameplay, and that speaks volumes to me.
I mean, like I said, I played a good 6 to 8 hours of the original Last of Us, and
I finished that first game.
that was enough.
I finished it because I was all enthralled with Naughty Dog, right? And then playing that just kind of broke me. It's like, all right, this is too much.
Like I said, it just means that not everything is going to be a winner. If you, like Micah, are trying to be frugal, save some money, good news for you. Games with Gold have been announced for December. What a lineup we have in front of us here this month. From December 1st through 31st on the Xbox One and Xbox Series X, you get The Raven Remastered. The point-and-click detective adventure game.
Is
Released
this
originally in 2013.
they just pushing trash on Games with Gold these days. aren't
Hey,
they?
don't you slander Games with Gold. The games I'm going to talk about here are a $74.96 in value.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up.
And with the potential to earn 3,200 in gamer score.
Wow, gamer score.
That's right. What a great deal. Well, Carrie, if Raven Remastered is not your speed, not your cup of tea, December 16th through January 15th, you can get Bleed 2, a side-scrolling action arcade title that no one has ever heard of.
No. Who is this? Who is this for?
Xbox fans. You think that Series X is going to have games that just appear on the console as if from nowhere? Absolutely not. They're going to give you free ones. Don't worry, though, because you can also play some Xbox 360 games on your Xbox One and Series X.
Mm.
December 1st to the 15th, you get the Saints Row standalone expansion, Gat Out of Hell, standalone expansion for Saints Row 4. Which I feel like has been given away as part of the Saints Row 4 Ultimate Edition on PS4 once upon a time. I'm just saying. But you can get the expansion with Games of Gold this month. And then from the 16th through 31st, you can get the Double Fine game Stacking, which I have played and did not find very exciting when it came out 9 years ago.
For what it's worth, I find it funny that they're calling Stacking a $15 game when it is very much a $10 game, and I can verify that by checking Steam right now, where it's $10.
Well, it's best on Xbox, I'm sure. Think of all.
I'm sure it is.
Think of all the enhanced features it's sure to have on the Xbox Series X.
Mm-hmm.
Current generation of consoles.
I will say that how far the Saints Row franchise has come? From being a GTA knockoff to a GTA knockoff where one of the popular characters who has died multiple times is now trying to escape hell and fighting the devil. And two, I used I'm a Game Pass subscriber.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? Let me look at some of these games on here. And I wanted to play Gears Tactics. That was a PC-only game for a while. And I was like, all right, let me play this. So I played a little bit of Gears Tactics. I won't belabor the point or just talk about it on and on. But I recommend it. It's actually, it's a game that I would pay for. And I don't have to because I'm paying a monthly fee. But I do enjoy Gears Tactics. I like a good tactics game, and it plays different from your standard like Japanese tactics game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's not on like a grid on a grid or anything like that. It's got a couple of different mechanics in it that I've never seen in a tactics game before, and maybe that's just because I don't play a ton of them. But yeah, I actually really like that game. If when I get more into it, if I see something that wows me, I'll come back. But yeah, I recommend that game.
Also on PC, this week, World of Warcraft Shadowlands, new expansion, dropping there. Just Dance 2021 is releasing on the new consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. Star Renegades comes to PS4. Vigor comes to PS4. And Maid of Sker comes to the Nintendo Switch. Those are your new releases for this Thanksgiving week here in the U.S.
High quality stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Maid of Sker. And I had to look at that because I was like, wait a minute, that's like maid as in like servant.
Yeah.
It's a first-person survival horror game set in a remote hotel with a macabre story of Welsh folklore. Okay, all right. I'm not playing a scary game on my Switch. That seems very off-brand.
Well, it came out last week on the Xbox, or a couple weeks ago on the Xbox. So
it came out a few months ago on the Xbox.
Oh, there you go. Even better. So,
speaking of spooky, I did download Phasmophobia, which seems to be the new hotness for a lot of streaming. I haven't played it yet, so I will have a report on that next week.
Go to youtube.com/densepixels and subscribe and click the bell notification icon to be notified when a new video drops. Go to whatever podcatcher you use to listen to your podcasts and subscribe to the Nerdpocalypse, Black on Black Cinema, Coming Distractions, and the weekly preview episode of Look Forward. And then when you got a taste, first hit's free. But now that you got a taste and you want more, go to densepixels.com/premium. And for $5 a month or $50 a year, you get access to the premium slate of shows, including the airing of Grievances, No Time to Bleed, The Men with the Golden Tongues, Upstage Conversation, and the full 2-hour episode of the Look Forward Political Podcast. Now, look, I listened to the full episode of Look Forward, and I got to tell you, I heard the most embarrassing thing that I've ever heard in my entire life.
That last hour was a fun hour.
Yeah.
And stay to the end. Stay to the end of the
They play during the show, they play a caller from the Rush Limbaugh show. And it is just the saddest fucking thing, just pathetically sad. Like, I understand you're sad, you're in your feelings that you told us to go fuck ourselves with, but this grown-ass man was crying to another grown-ass man about a rich old grown-ass man losing an election. And it was just, I couldn't help but to laugh. And then I felt bad. Like, wow. It's worth checking out. Go to densepixels.com/premium and subscribe.
And again, if you're a premium member, best to use your web browser and go to the TNP Premium Podbean page to listen to shows, because Podbean's app for premium podcast is fucked up right now. We're working on a solution to fix that for you guys. So we'll go from there. A lot of news this week. A lot of news this week. No topics of the week. That'll be your questions, but there's a lot of fucking news this week. According to Business Insider, apparently there's been a lot, and I mean like a lot of organized scalping going on worldwide when it comes to PS5 consoles. Of course, because of the limited availability of these consoles at launch, a lot of scalping groups were able to actually organize in advance and kind of spread themselves out a lot of different places to gather a lot of different systems and now sell them for upwards of $1,000 or more a pop to people who are desperate to get their hands on the new console. Me being petty has to make it known, of course, that it doesn't look like there's a lot of scalping rings looking after Series X consoles. I'm just saying right now.
God damn it.
But this fucking sucks. It really stinks. Like I said, I don't like scalpers. They are generally assholes, like I said, to actually go out like this and organize and buy up a shitload of stock on a product that is hotly anticipated, maybe legal, but it's certainly not morally sound, and just makes you a fucking dick for potentially taking them out of the hands of someone who actually wants them, just so you can make a quick buck. So I'm not too fond of these people. I don't know what you do about this though if you're Sony, because I don't know what you can do about it. Like it's like
I mean, there's nothing illegal about it, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even saying that. Like they can't stop people from scalping, but at the same time, like, you know, the only way around this is to make more consoles, and I'm sure they put out as many as they possibly fucking could,
right,
for the launch. And so,
I mean, it's one of these things where it's like on this sort of scale where you have many people all going to likely many locations and hitting up many different websites to get as many consoles as possible. Like,
how much
nothing can be done, really.
How much do you? I typed PS5 into eBay.
Well, did you go to sold listings, or just because like people can list them for whatever they want? I'm more curious to go to like sold listings for PS5.
I'll see if I can find it.
I would imagine that some are going for, you know, $700-800 easy that have sold. I'm not talking about people that are listing them for $2,000. I'm talking about the ones that people have actually sold.
I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, man. This is gross, dude. It's gross. But
I mean, I'm looking at one right now with bids on it, 17 bids, 19 hours left at $855.
Yeah.
So
yeah, here's one for $850. God damn.
Yeah.
Sucks, man.
A lot in the 800s. I'm seeing a couple up into the 900s. Yep, $950. 56 minutes left, 28 bids. Yeah, it's super fucking gross. Like,
and I can just say to people, like, don't pay upwards of
don't pay twice as much
of list price, for a PS5 console. Like, it's not. It's great. It's a great console, but it ain't worth paying double to fucking pain.
It's not worth paying $1,175 for.
No.
Plus $91 in shipping. Nah, yo, it's not.
No,
it really isn't. Because and like if you're someone who's considered, you know, paying up for this console, just what do you really get out of it? What do you really get? What games are you really missing out on, or that you can't really wait on, that you can't play on PS4, quite frankly? Because most of the games that came out for PS5 also came out on PS4. They're just a little bit better if you play them on PS5. So
yeah, don't
do this. And if you're a scalper, like if you bought a PS5 just for the express intent of reselling it for, you know, $300, $400 profit, fuck yourself. How about that?
What I have been seeing is some folks sort of get back at scalpers by making them drive many miles for a deal for PS5s that aren't actually going to happen, and basically causing people to just waste their time and their gas. I'm like,
that I can appreciate.
Yeah,
good.
I can respect that.
If you don't care about your eBay reputation getting tanked, then that's a perfectly fine.
I think I'm seeing mostly people do this through like Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So
that's much better. I mean, like I've bought watches before, like for the express purpose of reviewing them, that are hard to come by, that sell out quickly. But when I flip that watch, I sell it for the regular price. Like I'm not sitting there like flipping it and selling and putting a markup on it just because it's a rare thing now.
Yeah.
I just fundamentally don't agree with that. I think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Fortnite put some chum in the water last week about a subscription service, and lo and behold, they have announced Fortnite Crew, the new monthly subscription service that is optional for Fortnite. Fortnite Crew is going to cost $11.99 a month. Here is what you get. You get access to the full battle pass for whatever the current season is. Normally that's $9.50 by itself, spread out over 3 months. It also gets you 1,000 V-Bucks every month, which is a $10 value, as well as an exclusive monthly cosmetics bundle, which Epic said they will never give away or sell these cosmetics to people that aren't part of the Fortnite crew subscription service. This is if you're someone who spends money anyway in Fortnite, like if you regularly buy V-Bucks, and you buy the battle pass every season, this is a really good deal. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't do that if you buy at least $10 worth of V-Bucks every single month to get some exclusives. It could be a lot worse, I suppose, but it's going to be interesting to see how widely it's adopted.
Yeah, I don't. Fortnite, that thing just really passed me by. I don't know anything about Fortnite.
I don't really think that we are the. I think it's most appealing to the generation beneath us.
Yeah,
as late Gen Xers / elder millennials.
Yeah, I just
Harry, I think it's right in your generation's wheelhouse, is it not?
I don't fucking know.
Sort of base millennials, so
standard
millennials, yes.
Default millennial. I don't know.
So I know who is going to be watching this intently, and that is Activision is going to be watching to see how this does, because I would imagine that Call of Duty will see something similar next year if this is very successful. I just don't see how it couldn't be. Another month, another Ubisoft managing director has been ousted from the company because of sexual misconduct allegations. Ubisoft has removed a gentleman by the name of Hughes Recor, who is the managing director of the publisher Singapore studio, which is working on the Skull and Bone.
Oh, right. Game. That's still a game that they're trying to make, isn't it?
Allegedly, it is. Following the result of a, quote, leadership audit. This gentleman was one of the people singled out over the summer when multiple Ubisoft employees, former and current, came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct aimed at senior members of staff. Sources accused him of bullying, demeaning comments, retaliatory action, and sexual harassment. They also said that he made suggestive comments about female employees' clothing and encouraged staff to kiss him at work events.
And men just stop.
Wow.
It would be nice.
Can please just cease.
Wow, dude.
Wow. I want to know what fucking planet some of these dudes live on, where they were raised to think that that sort of thing would ever be acceptable.
It's the kind of situation where it's like the Raptors testing the fence in Jurassic Park. Like there are people that will kind of press the line and see what they can get away with, and if you don't have anyone to slap your hand to tell you no, then you'll press it even further, and and then eventually you get into management, and people don't think that they can say shit to you about stuff. And I think that's a lot of it. It, like I said, what boggles me is that one of these two things is true, and I'm not sure which one it is. Is this just weirdly a predominantly Ubisoft culture thing, or is there just a lot more of this shit going on in other companies? I'm pretty sure the latter.
I will guarantee you that there is shit like this happening at every company, particularly in the games industry, which unfortunately, despite the fact that during the early days of video games in the fucking early mid-'80s had a lot of women in a lot of prominent positions, slowly but surely over the course of the late 80s into the 90s turned into a boys club in the worst possible fashions. And it's the reckoning that is happening at Ubisoft, which sort of echoes the reckoning that happened at Riot Games last year. I guarantee you, I would put an exorbitant amount of money on there being problems similar to this at just about every game publisher on the planet. Because that's unfortunately just how the culture is.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's this company is no different than any other company. Look, men gonna men, I guess, and that's not excusing it. It's just
Men being men in this sense is a direct result of the previous generation going, boys will be boys.
right,
Whenever
exactly.
Limiting that to one generation, are you?
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, what I mean is like it's always the fault of the previous generation, right? It unfortunately goes back many generations, and it's not until within the last 5-10 years where we're finally like, hey, guess what? Not acceptable. Never been acceptable. We're not putting up with it anymore.
Yeah, god damn, dude. I mean, good on Ubisoft, but for getting rid of
Bad
the
on
guy.
Ubisoft.
But
They wouldn't have done shit about it if it wasn't
right
dragged up to the sunlight. So
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm about to say. Like, I feel like this is some like this guy got told that he better fall on this sword, right? Because it's Ubisoft Singapore on Skull and Bones like that. Like, it just doesn't. This feels like a sacrificial lamb needed to be killed, and they chose this guy. Look, get as many of these people out of here as possible, but at the same time, like, plus it's Ubisoft, like they stay like, oh, we did not know. Like, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
That fucking company, man.
Nintendo has decided that they don't want people using Animal Crossing New Horizons for politics purposes anymore. They've issued a formal set of guidelines around
what a sentence that is.
Yeah, advertising in the game for businesses and organizations, and that notably includes the phrase, please also refrain from bringing politics into the game. Of course, we reported many stories about the Joe Biden campaign using Animal Crossing, and some other political groups have gotten their message in the game as well. I gotta say, it's a little disappointing because you're gonna see someone bring a political cause into the game, not necessarily like a advertisement around a particular campaign, and Nintendo's not going to look good if they knock that down. Like, if someone puts like makes Black Lives Matter Island, that's not going to be a good look if they put the kibosh on that.
I mean, I think part of it is like it's brands, right? Like, it's corporations they're going after, that they don't want major companies or major public figures using their product in a way that the product is not intended to be used, which I understand from their perspective. I don't think they're going to go after like an individual person from fucking Nebraska who decides to set up their island for a political purpose. I think the difference is that over the course of the year, as you said, we saw the Biden campaign use Animal Crossing for campaign related stuff. And we've seen other brands sort of take on creating islands around their brands and whatnot. And I'm sure from Nintendo's perspective, they're just sort of like don't. I'm sure from their perspective, it probably boils down to not wanting to be seen as endorsing through, but by proxy of it being their game, any particular cause or brand or anything like that.
I totally understand why they'd want to do that. I can't see that mindset though anymore without immediately thinking, well, Republicans buy sneakers too. Like that's the thing I automatically snap to whenever I see any company it's not even taking a stand politically. It's just like, oh, we choose not to take a stand, and we don't want to be forced into this situation. So like I said, it's their game to do with what they will. I find it weak sauce. Because again, it's just you're protecting your profits. That's all you really care about at the end of the day, which, like I said, they're a corporation, and I expect that to be what they looked after first and foremost. 14 years later, well, later than that because it's not coming out this year, but The World Ends With You is getting a sequel at some point. It's actually a prequel. It's called Neo: The World Ends With You. Fantastic title.
Love it.
Apparently, there's going to be a bunch of new players sucked into the Reapers game. I'm not a big World Ends With You fan. I tried playing the DS game many years ago and just did not get past the first area because I'm just like, this is not for me. Whatever this game is, it's a weird RPG. But World Ends With You fans are very excited, apparently. So it's coming out next year on PS4 and Nintendo Switch. So they got that looked forward to. Apparently some Persona fans were mad that it was getting a sequel because like World Ends With You just came out on Switch like a year ago. They're like, oh, I can't believe it's getting a sequel already, not realizing that the game actually came out on the DS back around the time the DS originally came out. So that was pretty entertaining.
Young people.
Me and Micah got some interesting surprise news last week in the form of a teaser trailer from IO Interactive, the developer of the Hitman franchise, who revealed that they are making the next James Bond video game. Currently just a working title. It's called Project 007. We don't know anything about it. So you know what that means? Time to wildly speculate as to what we're going to get out of the IO Interactive James Bond game.
They said that it's going to be an original story, and you're going to earn your 00 in this game. I feel like that's not an original story. I feel like they might be about it, but okay.
So now here's my question. So is it supposed to be separate and apart from the James Bond like universe, or like is it original in that way, or is this like what James Bond was doing before Casino Royale happened, essentially?
I feel like this is going to be its own separate thing, right? And okay, what could this game be, right? IO Interactive, known for making those Hitman games. Those Hitman games are successful. They're not for me.
No.
I hope that this
I don't want reskinned Hitman. That's not at all what I'm looking for.
No, not at all. The last 007 game that I remember having somewhat enjoyment from was that action adventure game starring Pierce Brosnan. And
Everything or Nothing?
Yeah. I remember enjoying that game a bit. Wait, did that come out before or after the best James Bond game? And it's not what you think it is, young people and old people. It's not what you think it is. It's based on one of, if not arguably the best James Bond movie, From Russia with Love.
I played the shit out of that game.
That game was amazing. I loved it.
That
that's
game on my fucking senior week.
Yeah,
into high school.
It's also a strong competitor for the most mailed in voiceover performance in a game. Sean Connery in that game squaring off against Bill Murray in the Ghostbusters video game is a mailed in fight for the ages in terms of VO performance.
Just straight up reading lines.
Basically, yeah, it reeks of I don't really know what I'm doing here. They paid me a shitload of money to do it though, and I'm just gonna get through this. And it's like the episode of it's like the episode of The Simpsons where Homer was having trouble doing his VO work for the Itchy and Scratchy show, and like Krusty comes in and like bangs out like 10 lines in like 5 minutes, and then rolls the fuck out.
Flubs one of the lines, and it's just
Right.
like, scratch that, yada yada yada. It's like, all right, kid, that's how you do it. And then they all right, Krusty, we're ready to roll.
So yeah, I really hope that it's not reskinned Hitman. That's not at all what I want. I would also like to see possibly them to do stuff with story that gives you some agency in how James Bond performs, sort of like a realized version of what Alpha Protocol could have been. Anyways, had Alpha Protocol not been a just poorly mismanaged project that got fucked from the get-go. Either way, I am more excited for this game than I've been about any James Bond game in a very long time. Like a very, very long time, because Activision fucked that license up with the very little that they did with it in the many years that they have had it. Can you believe we have not had a new James Bond video game since 2012?
Is that when Legends came
Yeah,
out?
yeah, on the PS3 and the 360, which was not a good game
Wow.
No, it really wasn't.
at all. So yeah, so that was some unexpected but very potentially exciting news that we'll have to wait and see more on down the road.
Oh my god, I can't wait to just get some information on what this could be, especially given the technology that we have now. You know what I mean? Like I just because like I'm looking at a video from Russia with Love, and I'm looking at Sean Connery's face in it, and I'm just like, wow, this I have it on mute, obviously, because that's the best way to look at it right now. And I'm looking at it, and I want it to be something like this. I want it to be like a stealth action game, or I don't know. I don't know. I just
Well,
don't want it to be Hitman.
Well, I don't want it to be just action either, though. Like the one thing that the James Bond games have always done is it's just set piece after set piece after set piece, and there's more to James Bond than just running around shooting people.
What if it's a role playing game?
That's what I'm
Like,
talking about. Like, how awesome would that be? How amazing would that be?
like you have to develop certain relationships, and if you don't, fill certain invisible meters, somebody might double cross you or triple cross. Like, it's so. All right, I really want this to be good, man. I really want this to be good. There's got to be a woman with some name that's a double entendre in it. I demand that. Not something. Don't puss out and be like Strawberry Fields. Like, nah. Yeah, her name got to be like. I don't even know. I don't know. It's got to be good.
All right, so Mortal Kombat 11 is getting some new skins. This is going to be based off of the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie that is going to have the voice and likenesses of Christopher Lambert as Raiden, Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage, and Bridget Wilson-Sandbris as Sonya Blade. Of these three skins, only Christopher Lambert's actually looks like him. The other two do not look like the actors that portrayed them.
No, but the most important thing is that they have a different actress for Sonya, and that alone is worth the price of buying this pack, because Ronda Rousey is terrible as Sonya Blade. She's just Ronda Rousey. Like it's a stark contrast from this very competent, military-minded, serious, firm but fair Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat X, and fucking I don't do nothing, bitch, in Mortal Kombat 11. Like, yo, what the fuck? Like, just calm down.
I don't know. I'm upset that they didn't go the full distance with this. Like, where's your Liu Kang skin pack?
That's in classic MK movie skin pack 2, bro.
Oh, okay.
People
I'm out of my Mortal Kombat.
People were already complaining. They were like, "This is great. Where's Katana?"
Right.
Like, where's Liu Kang? So, I imagine that they will get the entire MK movie cast of principals.
Will Skin Pack 2 have an option for the James Remar Raiden skin?
Don't put it past them.
They can get your money again. They absolutely will. Rockstar Games has decided to make Red Dead Online a standalone title. It's going to be available next week, December 1st. It'll be available for $4.99. And it said the 75% discount will be available till February 15th on PlayStation 4, Windows PC, and all the other platforms it comes out on. Does that mean it's going to go up to $20 after February 15th? That would be amazing.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. You're going to need 123 gigabytes of storage on your console, and then you'll have the option through Red Dead Online to purchase the Red Dead Redemption 2 story mode separately. No word as to how much that's going to cost, but if I'm a smart guy, I'm thinking it's probably going to be $39.99 to upgrade to the Red Dead Redemption 2 full edition, essentially. I find it interesting that they're going this route. I would imagine that this means that the sales for Red Dead Redemption 2 have definitely stagnated and may probably fallen off at this point. Not nearly the level of consistency that we've seen for literally the past 7 years for GTA 5, who's been able to sell copies among copies among copies of that game specifically because of GTA Online. So I guess this is a smart decision to break out Red Dead Online as a separate purchase and maybe get people into Red Dead through the back door by getting them to get this first for $5 and then possibly upgrading to the full game down the road.
I don't see people talking about Red Dead, or no, let me scratch that. I don't see Facebook advertising to me about people playing Red Dead Online like they do GTA 5. Like,
well, and isn't it interesting? Because I feel like Red Dead Online would have been a lot more successful if GTA Online didn't still exist and wasn't still updated and didn't still have such a strong player base.
Yeah.
So in many ways, they're victims of their own success. As far as that goes. Keep your heads down, ladies and gentlemen. If you are trying to avoid spoilers for Cyberpunk 2077, apparently hard copies are already out in the wild from retailers or maybe non-retailers that broke street date on the title. Apparently, there's some videos that are already out there that was played on a PS4 or PS4 Pro that looks like shit because they just rushed to get out whatever fucking stream or version of it they could. Just to be the first ones there. So don't sully what should be an excellent game by viewing a terrible version of it. Wait for their big release to come out. It's only 2 weeks away, if you can believe that. Maybe.
Right.
If it doesn't get
So
delayed
they,
again.
so
Well,
they say.
Well, I mean, the fact that there's retail copies that exist probably mean that it actually is coming out.
No,
Just
I don't
at
know.
this point.
Nope. Don't put it past them. They're like, we see these are fake copies, and we just released these to brick your systems. These are the real copies coming
And we'll see them in February.
out.
Developers at Valve were got some powers removed from them this week after stepping over a pretty serious line. So, Valve developers had the ability to ban players ad hoc in Valve games, notably Dota 2. On the surface, this makes sense. Valve developer observes someone obviously cheating. Why wait for it to go through the normal process? We can trust these Valve developers. They know what they're looking for, so we'll just let them ban these folks, and that'll help get these guys out of the game a little bit quicker. Good in theory.
No.
It's good in theory until someone decides to ban somebody because they're mad that they got their ass kicked in Dota 2.
Yep.
Which is exactly what happened. So basically, basically a player got banned from Dota 2.
Or he was sent to the game's low priority mode.
Yes, that's
so
correct.
So he couldn't do matchmaking.
There you go. And he went to the Dota 2 subreddit and complained that he was sent to the game's low priority mode for having an in-game disagreement with a player. Turns out the player that he was fighting and that it was having an argument with let it be known during the argument and said, quote, "Do you know who you're talking to? Check my profile. I'm a Steam employee." And then Valve looked into the case and clearly said that the guy did not deserve the ban.
What's more obnoxious, telling a person, "Do you know who my dad is?" or telling a person, "Check my profile. I'm a Steam employee."
Yeah.
Or a Valve employee. And I just, boy, you really give anybody just a modicum of power and they will abuse it.
Just
Man.
gone.
Man.
Like,
you give any man a modicum of power, because that's who it is, right? You give any man a modicum of power.
A little bit.
And they will abuse it.
Yeah.
Sean Vanneman, one of the co-creators of Firewatch, by the way. So it's not like he's just some fucking rank and file dude to be pulling this shit out. To his credit, he himself responded to the post and fell on his sword. In this instance, but yes, Valve employees will no longer be able to use their authority to hand out manual bans. They now have to rely on the same reporting systems that the game has in place for everybody else to report people who are cheating or being abusive.
Wow.
What a wild story. And finally,
Auction news.
Yeah, auction news. So
this is actually kind of exciting.
The newest, richest video game, most expensive video game in the world, sold for $156,000.
Yeah.
At auction. This is a factory sealed copy of Super Mario Brothers 3
Now
for the NES.
Not only is it a copy of Super Mario Brothers 3, but it's worth noting that this is a particularly hard to find variant of Super Mario Brothers 3. This is called the Left Bros variant because the word bros is under the M in Mario, partially obscuring Mario's glove rather than being under the I and O in Mario, which is how you typically, like if you look up Super Mario Brothers 3 cover art, that's generally where the bros is, because it makes more sense for it to be over there. So yeah, there was this is like a first run copy before like people looked at the box art and were like, you can't really read bros because it's intersecting with the art of Mario himself, so they moved it for the vast majority of games produced. So not only is this a rare variant, but it's a sealed game from 32 years ago, and the game itself is in spectacular condition. This is graded by Wata Games. Now, full disclosure, I know the guy who founded Wata Games, and I have multiple games graded by Wata. But it's graded a 9.2, which if you're at all familiar with comic grading or card grading, anything above a 9 is basically considered near mint. And it has Wata for sealed games does sort of like a grade of the state of the shrink wrap itself. So it's a 9.2 A+, which is exceptional quality for anything that's been sitting around for 3 decades. So yeah, I am not at all surprised to see this particular game sell for this much money through heritage. Video game collecting has become kind of a high dollar industry over the last, let's say, 2 years. Basically, once Wata sort of partnered with heritage auctions to create this like sort of funnel of like games are being graded, like sent into Wata, graded, and then sent directly to heritage for auctions. Shit really ramped up because you have a lot of comic book guys who are now sort of offloading parts of their comic collection and investing in video games instead because they feel it is a more lucrative collector's market right now. And they may be right. I feel like the bubble is bound to burst.
Speaking as someone who just this past weekend decided to sell pretty much all my Super Nintendo stuff that I had gotten over the past that I bought about 15 years or so ago, to the tune of about a 300% profit from what I bought it for about 15 years ago.
Yeah, Super Nintendo stuff is especially lucrative, particularly if it's in good condition. Yeah. So
not to mention the copy of Earthbound that I sold.
I'm still so fucking pissed at you. You had a complete in-box copy, right?
I did, yeah.
God damn, dude.
And I doubled what I paid for it, essentially. Not bad.
Held on to that for 5 more years. You probably could have tripled it.
Yeah, possibly.
Can you imagine how much the variant will go for? This game will go for when someone decides to sell the variant cover that doesn't have Mario cross-eyed on it. He just looks cross-eyed to me.
But it's funny because, like I said, I remember Super Mario Brothers 3 was the first game that I had ever gotten on a pre-order. So it's possible that I might have had one of these copies at one point.
Yes.
Way back in 1990. Of course, not 6-year-old me, that shrink wrap stayed on that game for about 0.2 seconds before I got it in the car coming out of Toys R Us. So, but just wild to think. What if 6-year-old me had just put it in my pocket and just and kept it safe somewhere all these years? Not likely, but
I mean, I've been very fortunate. The games that I've gotten graded back, So like I went for preservation's sake mostly. Like I don't consider myself a serious gaming collector, but the games that I have graded, and it's basically for preservation because the encapsulation device that they have is like UV light resistant and whatnot. So it's like you put it in one of these cases and it's presumably going to stay in the condition that it was graded at forever, right? At least that's the goal. So I have the very first video game that I bought with my own money, which was Pokemon Red. And because my dad is a big sports memorabilia collector, he just enabled me being a hoarder as a child. So I kept all of my Game Boy boxes like in a drawer in my room. So that came back like a 7.5, which is pretty solid for a game that I bought in 1998, played the shit out of, and I was 8 years old when I bought that. So I have a lot of stuff that is in like pretty solid condition, for having bought it as a child and like actually played the shit out of my games. So
I wish I'd hung on, because I was also the same way. I took immaculate care of my game boxes and stuff like that. So if only I wasn't so quick to unload them back when I was a teenager to get a PlayStation 1. But then again, I really wanted a PlayStation 1. So
yeah.
There you go. If you want a PlayStation 1, go to www.densepixels.com/Amazon and see if you can find one. When you go to www.densepixels.com/Amazon and search for your PlayStation 1 and buy it, you have to buy it now.
You can buy a PlayStation Classic for $79.98.
You can you help out the show. It's the easiest way to help out the show. Look at that. You can buy the Sony original PlayStation 1 console, not the ONE, the original PlayStation 1 console for $137.13. From only if you go to www.densepixels.com/Amazon.
We turn to the Dense Pixels post office lighter edition this week. We'll start with Romarius. He says, will in-depth photo modes in games, especially single-player games, be the new fad that gets overused in the next 5 years?
I don't think it's going to be a fad, and I don't think it's going to be overused.
Yeah, put it in every game. I love photo mode. It's amazing.
It's completely optional.
Yeah. But I kind of appreciate that they have all of the photog, like Photoshop settings basically in there that you can use to tweak and fuck with it and stuff like that. But that's, I mean, like I said, if you're going to take a screenshot of your game, especially on these fancy new consoles, take a screenshot.
Yeah, man.
Make it artsy.
It's and it's a flex, right? If your game doesn't have a photo mode, it probably don't look good.
That's true. That's very true. Listen, what I will tell you guys, though, you aspiring video game photographers, as you mess with your photo mode, learn about the rule of thirds. It will improve your picture composition tremendously.
Yep.
If you incorporate that. And Assassin's Creed Valhalla even has a variety of different grids to make sure that you can use your rule of thirds correctly, which is nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it, like these big time photo modes is just like, it's, I guess I sort of take a little bit of umbrage at the idea that it's like overused. Like how would something that requires you to presumably pause your game and go into a separate menu be overused? Like it's not an in-game mechanic, right?
Frankly, I think they're underutilized. I think there's more games that
should have
them that don't. Now I can see where they can be overused if you start putting them in games that really don't warrant having a photo mode in them, because your game doesn't look good enough to have or stylish enough to have a photo mode. Like I'm fine if you want to put a photo mode in like a Mario Odyssey or a Zelda Breath of the Wild, even though those aren't like, super hyper realistic, 4K beasts. But there's a lot of other games that really don't need that I don't necessarily want that in. So
right.
Avengers has a photo mode,
Okay.
So there you
and
go.
it ain't even that great. Like they couldn't even get the photo mode right. It's a half-assed photo mode. That game is
Maybe that'll come in
half-assed
a
all
future
the way
update
around.
to bring people back to the game. Photo
It'll
mode.
do it. Look at all these different robots you can take pictures of.
Yeah. There's 5 different varieties. You could get them all. Get them in a group photo with each other. That'd be great. Cam says, I'm sure that there will be extra special deals on actual Black Friday this year, but given that most stores are doing month-long sales in person and online, do you think consumers will put pressure on retailers to make this the new norm moving forward, or will next year we'll see us return to the Hunger Games from markdown garbage that will break in a month? So the sales that I've seen through these month-long sales have been pretty typical of the sales that you often see Black Friday week at a lot of retailers, especially the past couple of years. And then usually on Black Friday, there is a further sale. Even some of the stuff that's on sale might see a further discount on Black Friday proper, and then into Cyber Monday possibly as well. I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to continue to see that. There is a compulsion amongst retailers, especially, to try to one up the other guy. Like the reason that everyone was opening on Thanksgiving for so many years is because, like, you know, JCPenney tried it for the first time one year, and then Walmart and Target were like, oh, we're going to do that too. And then all the specialty retailers basically had to come along for the ride to compete with Walmart and Target. It's kind of like a domino effect. So basically whatever Walmart, Target, Best Buy, whatever the big companies do will be what the trend becomes, because everyone else is kind of forced to follow that to stay competitive.
Yep.
Yeah, that sucks because my mother goes out to, Black Friday and stuff like that. And she's got MS, so she can barely walk. So she has to have a blocker there for her. And it's usually my sister, because I did that Black Friday stuff once as a consumer, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So
I don't think I've ever like gone out on Black Friday. I spent too much of my life working in retail to like want to subject. Yeah, it's like I don't want to be a part of that. I do all my shopping online anyway.
Trey says, with the success of Maximilian's Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 tournament stream, is this even likely to persuade both Capcom and Disney to try again, but better this time, or will people continue to play the old games while others lie to themselves that Injustice is good and not just a Mortal Kombat beta? That's an interesting description of Injustice. I do find those games to be very different games from one another. They play very differently from one another.
Yeah, one of them has a block button, and one of them used to have a run button, but they got rid of the run. I didn't know did his stream happen already? Did his tournament happen already?
Well, I assume so. If Trey's talking about it in the past tense.
I saw that he was having a tournament, a sponsored tournament. I just didn't think it happened already. But time is a blur. Will people continue to play the old games while the others lie to themselves? I don't know.
I mean, in terms of Marvel, yes, way more people are going to continue playing Ultimate Marvel 3 than Marvel Infinite.
Well,
just because that's a more beloved game than Marvel.
Yeah, because it's a better game.
Right.
But like if, Marvel versus Capcom Ultimate, or no, they already used that name. What's another Spider-Man-esque superlative? If Marvel versus Capcom Spectacular comes out, right. and it's really good, you'll get people want to play the new hot stuff, and companies want to push the new hot stuff when it comes to these tournaments and stuff. But you'll still have your diehards, like all the Melee people. You know what I mean? The Smash Brothers Melee people. The Smash Ultimate has literally every character that's ever been in a Smash plus more. And people just love the way Melee plays for some reason. It's all the same to me, but I'm not a Smash player. So yeah, I think you'll still have people play their old stuff.
Yeah.
And Injustice is a little more than just an MK. I actually kind of prefer Injustice over Mortal Kombat, if I'm being perfectly honest. Just in the way the game plays.
Malcolm says, with so much black excellence in Survivor Series, except for what they did with Bianca, man, we gotta stop fucking microanalyzing single booking decisions. That wasn't fucking over Bianca. That was doing what they want to do for Lana entirely.
Yeah, I didn't watch Survivor Series, but I caught the gist of a lot of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that wasn't Bianca, I think was
the fact that she was going toe to toe with like Nia the Destroyer and they both got double counted out is
right.
Is the rub, is the elevation.
Right. You didn't get no one looked weak. That was the best thing that they could have done.
This ain't AEW. We ain't fucking counting wins and losses in scripted professional wrestling.
Right. But at the same time, like WWE fans, they do that shit, man. Like they do that shit. And it's all about who looks weak and who looks strong. If you want to make Lana look strong without making anybody else look weak, like that is, like you said, that's the difficult part.
Well, it doesn't even make Lana look like Lana didn't even look strong. Like she won because the other two people got counted out, and she was the last person in the match. Like that's
that's what I'm saying. That's the best that they could do,
right?
In trying to make Lana the sole survivor, right?
Just wait, hold your outrage till her and Asuka become the tag team champions. Be in a tables match next month because they're already laying the seeds for that. They're laying the seeds for that. So.
Oh shit!
Apparently, the New Day Street Profits match was also very good.
I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah. And they gave Street Profits the rub in that one, the win, the dub. So there's that.
Yeah.
Stuart says, "Is it time Western developers got a little less prideful and were more like the Yakuza creators and reused assets a ton in order to cut down on the time it makes to get a game out, especially when you're doing a sequel and it just adds a lot of consistency to the world?" Miles Morales basically did that, and I don't see any complaints about it.
I think in general, and obviously this is making a very, very broad generalization here. I think in general, Western developers are way more focused on doing shit like fucking Cyberpunk, for example, where it's like, oh, you can change the length of your character's fingernails in this game and you can see every fucking pore on their face. And so you end up with these long development cycles that are plagued with crunch for the poor developers involved. Whereas I think, generally speaking, Japanese developers have been historically less focused on being the most cutting edge graphically and more focused on developing good stories and developing good characterization. Obviously, you can have both in games, right? I think there are plenty of examples of games out there where you have both high quality graphics and good storytelling and good characterization. But I think where those things are on the priority list has become more obvious in the last couple years with these incredible new graphics cards and new technology and whatnot.
Well, the other thing is too is that that's not exclusively a Western thing. I mean, we have a literal running fucking joke on the show that when a new Square RPG is announced, we're like, oh, we'll see that in 7 years or 10 years down the line. Like Square does the same shit. In terms of taking forever to put out like these new epic games. And then conversely, like there's plenty of Western developers, especially as it pertains to sports games,
sure,
and things of that nature that will absolutely reuse assets over and over again.
Quite literally shit out the same game year after year.
Right. I think it does depend on the game itself.
Yeah.
And you have to also manage your fans' expectations around that game as well. And you have to decide what it is you want. So let's say, Naughty Dog pumped out an Uncharted game every 2 years instead of 3 to 4, but they did a lot of asset reusage and stuff like that. People probably would have been upset about that because it's like, oh, we're playing the same fucking game over and over again. Like, it looks similar, and they probably would have kept it in similar settings to kind of cut down on how many new things they had to create, things of that nature. But instead, they made 4 very distinctly different Uncharted games that all had various, very different settings and that kind of stuff. And I think we were better served for that at the end of the day. So it depends.
Yeah,
the Yakuza folks, sorry, I was gonna say the Yakuza folks especially seem to like to crank them out. So like, it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, but here's the thing: those games look good and appear to be telling very compelling stories. So
those games look pretty good, and it's all about character. It's all about story and character. And
Majima everywhere.
I forgot what I was going to say. I thought that when I saw this question, is it time for Western developers to get a little less prideful and a little more like the Yakuza creators? And I thought he was going to say, and like, be silly with some of their stories, be creative with some of their stories, because Yakuza it's such a cute game. Like, it's so like I love it so much. Like, it's so Japanese and or what I perceive Japanese humor to be, right? Like, there's one sub story where you see this guy, he's being shaken down by this gangster for some baby formula. And your character comes in and he's like, hey, leave this guy alone, man. And you fight him, and then he runs off. And then you talk to the guy and he's talking about how, oh, my wife is just really upset with me. We have this newborn baby, and, I'm working so hard trying to provide, and she just gets mad at me because I'm always working and I'm never home. And my character's like, well, did you talk to your wife? And, have you seen her point of view on things? And he was like, no. And then the story goes on, and eventually you fight gangsters who have like a baby like fetish, like they like dressing up as babies and being nursed by women and stuff like that. And then you guys have a fight, and then we all have a good heart to heart. And he was like, yeah, man, you really gotta see things from your wife's perspective. Basically, you have to open up the lines of communication if you want your relationship to work, because it's going to take 2 of you to be a parent. And we're talking like we're doing this, and there's a grown ass man in a diaper, a gangster, and a Japanese businessman holding some baby formula. Like, it's the weirdest thing in the world, but it's telling this like very like heartfelt story. Like, I love it. More developers need to do that, man. You need to focus on character, man.
Finally, A-Man says, we're going to wrap up with him. For those who watched The Undertaker send-off, who got in their feelings? Because I cried like a little bitch when he threw his last arm up on the ramp. So here's the thing about The Undertaker's farewell. I didn't watch Survivor Series because we're not talking about it this week. And I got to tell you, watching Undertaker past, so like for me, like the hard end point for Undertaker is against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 33, when like he left the gear in the ring, and it wasn't the greatest match ever, but it was a decent match to go out on, I guess. And then watching him these last couple of years has been pretty much like watching Brett Favre play for the Jets and the Vikings. No one really wants to remember that part of Brett Favre's career, and everyone's going to only ever remember him as a Green Bay Packer.
Yeah.
Because they weren't good years for Brett Favre.
Yeah. Do you think it's done? Like, do you think
No, I do.
Even if there's a big a big payday, if some prince from some other country is like, you give me the Undertaker and I'll give you $1 billion or whatever, right?
I think he's wealthy enough. I think that he's happy enough with what ended up being his last match against AJ Styles in a match that was way more enjoyable than it had any right to be, considering what that match was.
Yeah. I listened to a couple of wrestling podcasts, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna be really upset if it's just a send off, like, because they're old school fans, so everything has to be a work, right? Everything yeah, the only reason to do anything is to work a crowd. And yeah, this was just a send off. And like you said, the fact that he's on like Hot Ones, like the Undertaker, who is a notorious like old school guy, does not like talking shop out in the open like this. He gets physically uncomfortable talking about like the most interesting part of wrestling, which is the actual business behind the scenes. The fact that he's talking about this stuff, I'm inclined to agree with you. Like, yeah, this is it.
Like, and again, like you saw him open up a lot more after the WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
Much. And I think in his mind it's kind of done. The fact they were able to close it out at Survivor Series, which was the event that he debuted at 30 years later.
Wasn't it like 30 years to the day?
Pretty much, yeah. It was pretty damn close. Puts a nice bow on it, or as nice a bow as you can have. Like I said, I do wish that he had, well, I guess he did kind of put over Roman Reigns in the end. But for a dude that always wanted to talked about going out the right way, quote unquote, it was pointed out to me that he won his last 3 matches that he had in his career, which is pretty funny. That it ended up being that way. So like I said, I think it works if you just pretend like his career stopped at Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and then everything else was just like some extended encore. That,
I mean, honestly, it could have stopped. It could have stopped when the streak broke. When the streak was broken by Brock.
Considering what came after, the caliber of matches, I can agree.
Yeah,
there wasn't any standouts after that WrestleMania 30 match, I wouldn't say.
That was it for me. He put over a guy that he really like respects and enjoys working with, and yeah, man, it for this character should never have worked. Like ever, like even in the back in the day when like when everybody was like had like a job gimmick, like an accountant wrestler, and a garbage man wrestler, and a baseball wrestler, and a booger man wrestler, and a boogie man wrestler. Like a mortician who like is ruled, a zombie mortician who's ruled by a magical urn. Who turns into the leader of a cult, who turns into a biker, who turns into a goth UFC guy. Like, none of that shit should have worked, but it did. And that is Vince McMahon's second greatest creation. And yeah, man, 30 years. Wow. I might have to. I didn't watch it because one, it's Survivor Series. And two, like this no fan era is really kind of bumming me out. Mm-hmm. But I might watch it just to see what they did.
Yeah, like I said, apparently Survivor Series is worth going back to watch the Street Profits New Day, and then Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre was apparently a banger.
Okay,
which I feel like they pulled the trigger on too early.
Yeah,
to be quite honest, but that is what it is. That's it for us this week. Make sure that you go to join the Dense Pixels fan group at densepixels.com/fans so that you too can answer questions in the Dense Pixels post office, as well as be engaged with the daily conversation. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/densepixels. Follow us on Twitch. Carrie is Stuff It's Carrie. I am Dense Pixels Brad. Terrence is Apparition 410. And if you are in the United States, have a very happy socially distanced away from family Thanksgiving.
Please don't travel.
Yeah.
Please don't. Keep it safe. Keep it simple.
We don't need to be having another
Eat a 20-pound turkey by yourself. No one's going to fucking stop you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Celebrate by you know what? I'm not even going to. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here, and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.